Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Let Me Know When You Get Home Safe. I'm your host Nick, and I had a lot of fun doing the last one, so I thought I'd try another one. It was a bit painful to rewatch because I kept saying, I think or something a lot, so I'm going to try and refrain from that. But we have the car all warmed up, ready to go. Got the seatbelt on, safety brake off, reverse, and let's head home. So, one of the things that I did while I was waiting for the car to warm up a little bit was I did something that people should always periodically do, and I did a blinker and brake light check. It's something that you should really do every once in a while. I saw a humorous Reddit post saying, unethical pro-life tip, check your stuff if you're going to be running drugs, because 90% of the people that get caught for transporting drugs in their car is because of getting pulled over for something as simple as a brake light or a blinker light being out. Obviously, I'm not condoning to be a drug runner, but I do think that it's a good idea to do on occasion. Now, usually it's easy when you have somebody else that can be checking, especially with the brake lights. In this case, I just did the hazards and I used my water bottle to push on the brake light, and everything's in working order, so we're road safe. So, one of the reasons why this is coming to you a little late is not only having a lot of stuff to do on Monday, but also I had a acid attack Sunday night. I have it's inherited, but I get it from Grandpa and from my dad. I have a weak pyloric sphincter and an overproduction of acid. So that means if I'm not treating it properly, I can have a flare-up, and anybody that has acid problems will tell you it never rains but it pours when it comes to that. We're not just talking about a little bit of indigestion. We're talking in the fetal position, you feel like you're basically corroding from the inside out. So what I do is I have a daily dose of Prilosec, and I just need to watch my diet. Now, I'm being a hypocrite in that I do smoke and drink, and those are two things that are horrible for acid reflux. However, I do try to make sure not to drink so much that I am giving myself an ulcer. The cigarettes, I try, not to have too many per day. I have made a promise in the past to try and, work on that. Not doing the greatest, but with proper diet and again, just regular maintenance on that, I've been good for a while. When I started doing the elimination diet, my flare-ups actually went down to zero for at least a good half a year, just by avoiding anything that I'm reactive to. So tomatoes, foods that basically you have a diet of foods that that you're not reactive to, and then you just do a trial and error by having a food, one food at a time, but having a food, and then the next day weighing yourself. And if you go up dramatically by like a pound or two, even though you didn't eat a huge amount, then most likely what that means is that you're slightly inflamed from your body having a reaction to the food. So you don't have a food allergy, you just have a food sensitivity. And having a food sensitivity means it's something that you can absolutely eat every once in a while. Just know that you're going to be up the next day, and try and eat foods that are anti-inflammatory, healthy, good for you, and then, over the next couple of days, you'll go back down again. So, by no means is it, oh no, I have reactivity to tomatoes, so that means I'll never be able to eat pizza again. No, it means you can have a couple slices of pizza, but you don't want to have a couple slices of pizza 4 days in a row, because then you're just going to be absolutely miserable. Have a couple slices of pizza. The next day you'll know why you're up, and then just make sure that you have foods that you're not reactive to. Ideally something like carrot ginger soup that has a lot of anti-inflammatory spices in it, that I got from a book called The Plan. And then I'm good to go again. So this was just kind of a weird fluke thing that I had the severe acid attack that I did, but it meant that the whole day was just kind of a throwaway. I did go to work, but for the first half of it I was not doing so hot. It eventually calmed down. I made sure to take it light with what I ate, And one thing that most people aren't aware of is I can't count how many people that coworkers coming up to me saying, "Oh, you look pale like death. What's up?" And I said, "Oh, I have a acid attack." And then they were like, "Well, did you try drinking some milk?" Well, here's the problem. So I don't know if you're familiar with something called lactic acid. Anybody who's a runner knows that lactic acid is what will build up in your body if you run, because it can't get rid of it soon enough. But lactic acid is something that also comes from products such as milk. So the lactose, I'm sure you're familiar with the word lactose. When your body breaks it down, it turns into lactic acid. So if you have acid reflux, if you drink a glass of milk, you might feel temporary relief because it does have a nice soothing coat on your stomach, but then about half an hour later, as you start to break it down, your acid will come back even worse because it's creating lactic acid. Now, I've had my acid reflux for quite a while now, so I already knew that about milk, but I was kind of stupid. So what I did, knowing that I was going to have a sensitive stomach, I was like, well, then I'll just, for lunch, just have a really, really, really light, non-reactive meal of rice. And I didn't even put salt on the rice, but what I did do is put a little bit of butter, which, if you think about it, is like concentrated milk. So of course I didn't feel too good after lunch. I'm an idiot. Butter is obviously going to have a lot of lactic acid once you break it down. So didn't do myself any favors for lunch, but needless to say, by the time I got home, I was ready to just have a nice light day of just doing chores instead of taking 10 minutes out of my day to do a podcast. I'll be honest, I didn't even think about doing one of the let me know when you get home safe ones after I got out of work, because I was so out of it. It just throws your whole day off. So I definitely took my Prilosec on time. I don't know what caused it, but yeah, I was a hurting unit on Monday, so we're going to be doing the video for Tuesday. And I'm not going straight home, but it's going to be roughly the same amount of a trip as the previous video when I did go home. So you're going to get roughly around the same amount of time. And yeah, I just thought that I had a lot of fun doing it. I'm saying a lot, but I don't think I'm saying too many you-knows, so that's at least an improvement there. And yeah, other than that, pretty uneventful weekend. I feel like no news is good news. I don't know if anybody else's 22 is going the same way, but it just seems like everybody that I talk to has had relatives die, has had their favorite celebrity die. They've had car accident. Tensions seem to be high. Even especially today, I don't know what the reason was, but everybody seemed to be walking on eggshells. So I feel like everybody that tried to write off 2020 and hoped that 2021 was going to be a better year got kind of disappointed. And same thing with everybody that was like, well, 2021 sucked, maybe 2022 is going to be our time. So that obviously hasn't happened. I mean, we before it even started, we lost Betty White. Now Bob Saget, whose death apparently was a little bit more traumatic than originally it seemed to be, than him just dying peacefully in his bed. And it just seems like we're probably not really, but with all the tensions on the Ukraine border, it's like we're going to be going into a new World War III. Hoping that this doesn't happen. I hope this ages like wine and not milk, and that doesn't end up being a thing. But it just seems like they can't find enough tragic and scary news to throw at us. So obviously the theory of that, I'm no tinfoil hat wearer, but usually whenever they try and scare us and distract us with stupid stuff, it's usually because they're trying to have our attention drawn away from sneaky stuff that they're doing to us. I don't know if that has anything to do with the fact that the anti-work subreddit's becoming a real thing, where it's like, oh, well, prices have been going up, and you can go, technically, we pulled up at the same time. I think I mentioned this in a previous video. We pulled up at the same time. I was on the right, so I had the right of way, but I know how that intersection works. It seems like everybody that pulls up to it is it comes to a rolling stop, and they just keep on going. And that's what just happened there. I saw that when you come to a stop don't look at the car, look at the wheels. So the easiest way to tell if a car is still going or planning to go is you look at the wheels, not the car. It's a lot easier to tell if they actually have come to a complete stop or if they're just rolling through. That guy didn't quite actually come to a full stop. The tires never quite stopped rolling, so I knew that even though we came to the stop sign at the same time, he wasn't going to obey the right of way and keep going. Now, normally you might think if you both come to a stop at the same time, even if you have the right of way, that you're being nice to waving them on. And for the most part, that's true, but to be honest, you really should always obey the right of ways for traffic, because otherwise you might be causing confusion. Like, I don't know how many times I've come to a stop and I've waved the other person's waved me, and then we both start to go at the same time. It's best just to avoid situations like that and try to obey the right of way as often as you can. But it's also important that you should try and read the road sometimes. And sorry for the video quality. My face is either half in the sun or you're getting the light directly behind me. Which is actually kind of nice. I've realized that in pretty much every other time that I've worked, every other location, whether it be on the opposite side of the country or what, I always seem to be driving into the sunrise in the morning and into the sunset in the evening. I always have the sun in my face, and this is the first job that I've had in a long time where I'm actually driving with the sunrise to my back and the sunset to my back. And while that's nice for me, it never factored in to my equations that I would have a podcast where the camera might be pointed behind me and you might get the occasional glare of light. So I do apologize for anybody that's actually watching video. I don't know why anybody would. It's not exactly the most exciting visuals, not even the most exciting dialogue. So even if you're just listening, I'm not sure what this appeals to you, but hopefully you get enough car facts and acid reflux facts to keep you going, keep you entertained while I have my drive home. And I was going to do something along the lines of what I like to try and do is when I drive to and from work, one of the things that I've tried to do since I got the new to me car, it's not a new car, but it's a new to me car, is I don't smoke in it. And that's been a great way to help try and cut down on smoking cigarettes. So what I've also tried to do is make sure that I'm drinking enough water during the day. So what I've tried to do is replace chain smoking cigarettes on the drive to and from work, replacing that with trying to get through at least one of my bottles of water. And one of the tips I was going to do is what you can try and do is drink water every time that you come to a stop sign or a stoplight. But I kind of just proved myself wrong in that fact, because when I came to the stop, one of the first things I had to do was shift and pay attention to the other car that pulled up at the same time. So I'm just going to try and sneak sips in while I have a relatively straight of way, no change in the speed limit, and that way I have one hand on the wheel, don't need to worry about the shifter, and I have a clear road ahead, so I know that I don't need to suddenly slam on the brakes and put it into neutral. But almost everybody already knows that they don't drink enough water that they should. Oh, there's that sun again. That's annoying, huh? I think everybody knows that they don't drink as much water as they should. One thing that I learned as far as trying to calculate how much you should be drinking, I hear some people saying you should just do like a gallon a day. Ideally, it should be based on your body weight. So I might have said this in the previous cast, but what you do is you take however many ounces you weigh, take however many pounds you weigh, turn that into ounces. So say 150 pounds, 150 ounces, divide by 2, so 75 ounces. That's how much water a 150-pound person should be drinking a day. I don't know how accurate that is. It seems roughly about right. So what I do in the morning is everybody wakes up like with Sahara mouth. Okay, I'm going to pause on what I'm saying right now because I just saw in my rear view a car just go into the other lane for a bit. Okay, so they were turning. Well, that was probably the least safe way to do it. So what they literally did was they went into the opposing lane. It's a straightaway, so they could see that no cars were coming. However, that's still not a smart thing to do. I guess they were getting out of the way of the truck that was behind them. I'm not sure what the logic was, but they literally just went into the opposite lane for quite a few yards, quite a few car lengths, all just so that they could be doing a left-hand turn. So just passed by a cop. Oh, now that's 2 cops. And luckily I am going under the speed limit, and yet I put my foot on the brake anyway. It's just instinct. You see a cop go by and you're just like, oh shoot, so you put your foot on the brake. I was actually going the speed limit, so there was no need to do that, but I don't know what it is about passing by a cop. Even if you're not doing anything wrong whatsoever, you still feel guilty. And, you know, I'm glad that we have the police. Fuck the police that use that, you know, they get drunk on their own power and they use it to intimidate you and harass you. I don't think that that's cool. There definitely should be a lot more training, considering they have to train for longer to give a person a haircut than you do to be a cop. So that's obviously something that needs to be addressed. So I'm not fuck the police, defund the police, but I definitely don't like the fact that it's almost like the more innocent you are, the guiltier you feel if a cop pulls you over, and they like to try and take advantage of that. So that I'm not a fan of. But yeah, I just passed 2 going the opposite direction. They didn't have their lights on or anything, but you know, and I don't think they were really that close to a police station, so they might have just been done responding to another call or whatever. But yeah, it was a cop car, another car, and then a cop car. So I feel like there was something going on. But we're on the back roads now, so the odds of me coming across one are pretty slim. Not that that means I'm going to use that as an excuse to, you know, speed, but you know, once you've done a particular route to and from work, you do have a rough idea of where the cops like to plant themselves. So, you know, if you're coming up to a spot where you know that they like to leave a, you know, bait you with a trap, you know, you just want to make extra careful that you weren't going downhill and crept a little bit over the speedometer than you realized. For instance, right now I'm going downhill, so I don't even actually have it in gear. I'm just using the weight of the car to keep me going. But that means that if I'm not paying attention, I could easily go over. And that's even if you have the cruise control in place. That's something that a lot of people don't really think about. If you have cruise control on and you're going uphill, yeah, the engine will kick in and, you know, it'll go faster to try and get you up to speed. But if you're going downhill, it isn't like it brakes for you, whether it's standard or automatic. Now, this might be outdated advice as I'm talking, because now we have electric cars, and I've never been in an electric car before. You know, maybe if it's a 2020 gas car, it does drop a gear to put the weight of the engine so it does naturally brake. I'm not sure. I have a manual speed, which I mentioned in the previous video, which is quite useful when it comes to snow driving, because you can use, like I said, the weight of the engine when you drop it a gear to help slow you down without even tapping on the brakes. But it does still have a cruise control. And so what that means is that if I put the cruise control on, put the cruise control on in that gear, okay, that way it's not straining too hard. But so right now, you know, it's in 4th gear, and it's going at about, you know, 2 RPMs, times 1,000 obviously, but 2 RPMs. And this is a good cruising speed for level to immediate incline. Now, if I were to suddenly start going up a hill, it's manual. It can't shift. So, if I start going up too steep of a climb, it's going to start dropping speed because it's not going to have enough power, and I would have to downshift and then put it back into cruise control. So, this is probably useless advice because I don't know too many people these days that would actually have a car that's still a manual that also would have cruise control. Usually, anybody that's going to have a manual is going to be having, you know, like a 60, 70, year sports car that they have manual because they like to, you know, feel the engine, feel the road, and they're not going to have that many accessories unless they really modded out the interior to make it more modern. But I assume that most people that like to have an old vintage car also like to have it be an old vintage inside as well as out. I'm not sure. I'm sure that there's many different people with many different tastes, but I digress. I was talking about drinking enough water. So yeah, what I do is I usually pound a cup of water when I wake up, and that was usually the easiest. Usually my mouth is a Sahara, and I throw a tiny bit of ginger juice and lemon juice in there, so it goes down nice and easy. I usually chug that glass. drink one of these on the way to work. And then since I also usually have at least 2 cups of coffee, that means that I'm pissing like a racehorse for the first part of the morning. I have another one of these at lunch, one as I drive home, and then that just means that I need to make sure to have at least a glass of water with dinner, and I'll be caught up for my daily water intake. Now, I also tend to, have a glass of wine or 2, with and after dinner. If you are going to drink, then obviously it's a good idea to have more water than you normally would. Typically, a small 8-ounce glass of water per drink is a decent way to keep yourself hydrated and from getting a hangover. Now, fun little fact on that, you might already or might not be aware that hangover technically... Oh no, I lost you. Oh, we're all sorts of screwing up here. I get to do it all one-handed too. Oh, this is the blooper part of the show. Oh, that was ridiculous. Okay, and we're back. Not easy to do one-handed, but we got it. So, sorry about that. You fell off of the clip there. So what I was trying to say is, I always thought of dehydration as being being hungover was dehydration, and obviously that is a factor. I remember the Paul Bettany. Shout out Paul Bettany, who was great. Most people know him as Vision, formerly Jarvis, but I grew up with him in movies like Knight's Tale, A Beautiful Mind. And he has a line in A Beautiful Mind that introduces the character where he goes, so you get a hangover from dehydration, so if you die from dehydration, it probably feels like the hangover that finally bloody killed you. Great line, but not quite true. It's actually your body trying to process all the toxins that get created when it's processing the alcohol. So it is a combination of not enough water, but also all that nasty stuff in there, which is why I don't think they make it anymore, but they used to make these charcoal pills that were supposed to draw the toxins out, so you could theoretically, drink all night and wake up and feel like $1,000,000. There probably wasn't much science to that, so that's probably why I don't really see them around much anymore. But dehydration is definitely a big factor. If you try and stay hydrated, I imagine it's a factor of 2, where it helps you stay hydrated and, keep filtering those toxins by pissing all night. But also, it's a little bit harder to, just drink and drink and drink and drink and drink if you're also having every other glass that you have in your hand be water. So it's probably helping you to space out those drinks as well. None of this is researched. Nope. You can actually go. Sweet deal. That was a fortuitous stop sign right there. All right. So what I was saying is, that's probably the reason why. But we're going to be getting to our destination shortly. So I can either try and think of a good way to wrap this up or just stop talking once I put it in the park. Probably going to do the latter, because now I'm in a slightly higher speed environment with people behind me. And even though it's not a passing lane, I have been passed so many times on this road. I'm not sure if the ridges on the middle road are supposed to just be for having people who are starting to nod off and they're going into the other lane to suddenly wake up and get back into their lane, or if it's supposed to discourage people from passing in a double yellow line. But either way, regardless of those ridges being there, I have had many a car, despite me going the speed limit, go past me, back into the lane. Then 9 times out of 10, just narrowly missing somebody that's coming in the opposite direction. And, there's nothing more satisfying / frustrating when they do that, and then you catch up to them at the next red light, and you're just staring at their rear bumper being like, are you happy that you're in position number 1 instead of number 2 now? Because that literally didn't even save you a full second. So, again, I just, I try to make sure to not have road rage be consciously a thing. I know that it's just the way that we're built, that you get into the road and everything's coming at you at hyper speeds. The danger is increased because you're driving a big hunk of metal that, could easily crash and kill somebody else, and everybody else is driving a big hunk of metal that could easily crash and kill you too. So your tension's already high, whether you're conscious of it or not. And so that's where I think a lot of the road rage comes from. So I just know that people are going to be dicks on the road, and unless you get into an actual accident, I usually just try and let other people's attitude on the road, not bother me. I usually get home, and unless it was something incredibly stupid that I witnessed, I try and just let it be a thing where I'm just like, you know what, they can go have fun, being dangerous and crashing into somebody else later on. And thankfully it wasn't me today. But there are sometimes those idiots where you're just like, you get home and you have to tell your significant other, oh my God, can I tell you about the frickin' moron I just almost had to run into because they weren't paying attention. They drifted into my lane and I had to either honk or, quickly swipe out of the road. But yeah, I do my best. I'll admit I've cussed out somebody even though they can't hear me before, and it doesn't do anything but make me feel a little bit better. But anyway, we are here, so I'm going to let you go. That was a good 26 minutes, so hopefully you appreciated it, and please let me know if this is a segment that I should keep doing. I know I enjoy it more than just sitting on the couch with Lila the Loud trying to distract me, and usually not being able to get more than 10 minutes before I just kind of trail off and say, okay, that's it, I gotta go do dishes or whatever. So I feel like this is a good way to not take too much time out of my day, but also get a slightly longer podcast, and stuff that comes up on the road I can usually give a little life lesson about. So I like it, and I'll keep doing it until I think of another segment or until I run out of stuff to talk about. But I hope you enjoy it, and I appreciate you.